Hey guys, I'm here, and today we will talk about which version will be the next remake of Resident Evil. With the release of the remake of Resident Evil 4, all attention has again turned to this popular game series. Capcom was able to revive the series of games by making the right decisions. These decisions started from the beginning of the construction of the 7th edition. The 6th game, which was utterly an action work, did not satisfy the fans as it should have and faced low scores from the critics. Because of that, Capcom considered a completely different structure for the 7th version and started the remake phase of classic games. It was from there that Resident Evil entered a brilliant era. The remake phase started with the release of the remake of the 2nd version. The elements of the 7th version heavily influenced this remake. It once again increased the fear load of Resident Evil. Many believed that Resident Evil 2 Remake was the best game of the series, and all these praises were the best possible start for the remake phase of the series. It took a little while for the remake of the 3rd version to be released. It was a remake that was not liked by the fans because it came with many omissions from the original game. After almost 3 years, the time has come to rebuild the 4th edition. Critics and audiences welcomed the remake of the 4th version of Resident Evil. Like the original game, the remake of the 4th version is considered one of the best games in the series. But after this restoration, what should we expect? In the early days, no one imagined that the remake phase would be taken so seriously. But the impact of the remake of the 2nd game was so significant that other prominent creators also went on to remake classic games. But what should Capcom do now? Now it's time to remake which game? Do we need another remake of the Resident Evil game series? If yes, which round? The 5th version of the game is the most likely option after the release of Resident Evil 4 Remake. Since 2002, Resident Evil 1 Remake, Capcom has been remaking game versions in order of release. Of course, this remake project was abandoned for 17 years. But since 2019, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th games remakes were released, respectively. Therefore, according to this arrangement, the turn of the 5th game has come. But Resident Evil 5 is not considered a classic game. Of course, if we look at the passage of time, this game was released 2 generations ago. Remember that a not-so-old game like Dead Space also got a remake version. However, Resident Evil 5 is not considered as old as previous games. On the other hand, Resident Evil 5 is not considered the best game among the fans of this series. By the way, it was controversial. There is a story-wise end to the series' hero's feud with Albert Wesker. Still, the game's overall structure is something other than what players would be eager to see a remake of. Resident Evil 4 is also an action game, but some elements make the game feel exciting and scary. But we never see such a balance in the 5th edition. Resident Evil 5 is a full action game. Chris Redfield, along with Shiva, can slaughter enemies in different ways. The 5th version wholly followed the path created by the 4th game. But this pursuit ended poorly. Of course, when it comes to remakes, making a remake of Resident Evil 5 makes sense in some ways. Some elements, such as aiming and gunplay, must be updated for today's players. Maybe after experiencing the recent remake versions, it isn't easy to cope with the structure of the 5th game. Therefore, regardless of the quality, the 5th version needs a reconstruction in terms of gameplay. But Capcom has to think about many reforms to make a remake of the 5th edition. It is unnecessary to redesign the gameplay elements and reconstruct the game's graphics. Some parts and structures must be changed entirely. Many fans believe there are hints in Resident Evil 4 Remake that all point to the remake of the 5th version. According to some events, remaking the 5th version may be possible and logical. Thank you very much for staying with me until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are interested in Resident Evil and want to know about Resident Evil news, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.